In some ways, it's getting easier to create content. I mean, anyone can write a post on Facebook. Anyone can put a photo up on Twitter. Anyone can put a video up on Vine. And usually those videos involve twerking for some reason, I don't know. But the barriers to creating media are very limited, are very, very low right now. So it's very easy for someone to create their own media. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that information is going to get out to the right people. So one of the challenges that we have right now is to maintain and grow a diversity of sources of information and a diversity of quality information, not just to keep the same stupid echo chamber of people repeating and repeating and repeating the same things, but actually providing some new information in there. What's great about this organization, HackHackers, is the emphasis that they have, for example, on data journalism, data as news, and presenting relevant information in this way. I think that's absolutely relevant because, especially if you look at, say, the US cable news channels, it's all about just people yelling at each other, yelling back and forth, you're stupid, you're stupid. And that kind of approach is not journalism in my mind. That is, it may be entertainment, but I don't think it's particularly relevant to a lot of people. So I like the idea of a diverse set of methods for getting news out. Maybe the story can be told through data. Maybe it can be told through a visualization. Maybe it can be told through, we saw this morning, animations. You know, someone with a pen and paper and a video camera making animated films that can illustrate a story. Those are all fantastic new ways that we can use, and those things I think are going to continue. It's also getting cheaper to make your own media. Anyone with a laptop and an internet connection can do an awful lot these days. But what we need to make sure happens is that the internet remains free, that it remains free of limits from telecoms and cable companies when they try to limit access to things that they don't own or control. It needs to be free from government interference and government snooping on our packets. It needs to be free in terms of the laws that many countries right now are trying to pass laws that can get you arrested even for clicking a like button on Facebook. This happened last week in Thailand. This type of interference with the freedom of expression is unacceptable, and it's something that we really all need to work on. And there are many ways that we can do it, and we need to be working together.
One of the benefits, or the biggest benefit I feel, is what we can do on the web is tell you your story, right? So for example, let's say you're reading a story in the newspaper, or you heard a story on the radio or on the web about schools, right? That written story will only be so long. And they might talk about the school that's doing well and the school that's doing badly. And there'll be 2 or 3 quotes from an administrator or a parent, right? But after you've read this story, your question, what you want to know is, what about my kid's school? What about the school down the street from me? How does it fit into the story? And we have, we could, read out loud on the radio for hours all the schools, but we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't print that in the newspaper. But what we can do on the web, what we can do with news applications is we can tell the individual, tell our audience how this greater story fits into their lives. That's I guess that's when our work is best, is when we can talk directly to you about the issue.
Muchos países del mundo están saltando el internet o la computadora para el móvil, que es la fuente de información en muchas comunidades. Entonces, para nosotros, como había una presentación esta mañana de Brian Boyer sobre en móviles, y si no estás trabajando en móvil, no estás trabajando en medios, más o menos. Y entonces, en comunidades a todas partes del mundo, no tanto en los Estados Unidos, porque Casi todo el mundo en Estados Unidos tiene acceso a una computadora. No todos, pero casi todos. Pero no es así en la mayoría del mundo. Pero en el celular, sí, todo el mundo casi tiene acceso a un celular, pero no a un smartphone. Entonces, mis colegas de África han hablado de la importancia de simplificar de la tecnología. No podemos solamente diseñar apps, aplicaciones para los smartphones, para iPhones, para Androids, porque la mayoría de la gente de África no tienen acceso a esos tipos de teléfono. Entonces, si solamente estamos diseñando apps para nosotros, para los que tenemos, para los que nos gusta jugar en el teléfono o usar nuevos apps, increíble lo que pueden hacer, pero la mayoría de la gente no pueden hacerlo. Entonces, tratamos de simplificar la tecnología para que podamos ayudar a una comunidad que quizás no tiene acceso ni a la computadora ni al smartphone.
Our team has, we like to have rules on our team, and that one of our big rules has been that everything we do has to work on mobile, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, the biggest being that our audience is moving very quickly to mobile devices and away from the desktop web, and frequently I'm not talking about. Frequently, when people talk about mobile content, they want to make things that are useful when you're on the go, right? They're sort of utility oriented, and that's good. And sometimes that's the thing you need to make. But our purpose is not just that, but is to make anything and everything we do be really great on mobile, because that's where our audience is at. People are consuming media. I mean, I look at my own consumption habits. I very rarely sit down and read a newspaper, and I very rarely go to a website and say, I wonder what's on the New York Times webpage today, right? I don't do that, right? I go to Twitter, or I go to Facebook, or I go to Tumblr, and I see what my friends are posting, and then I look at it, and I'm almost always doing that on a mobile phone. And our analytics, the statistics reflect that as a changing usage pattern. I mean, some of our pieces that aren't utility-oriented at all, that are just putting the story on the web, our pieces could do 30, 40% of our audience might be on mobile. Not because it's, mobile optimized stuff, it's just that we made it work on mobile, and that's where our audience is.
Bueno, siempre en América Latina ha sido un problema con las grandes empresas que son dueños de cadenas de medios, pero tenemos el mismo problema en Estados Unidos, en otras partes del mundo donde trabajamos, pero hay ejemplos en América Latina, sin duda, donde los medios tradicionales quizás no permiten la independencia en el proceso de noticias. No estoy criticando ningún medio en particular, pero es importante que tratamos de ayudar a los medios independientes pequeños. Como voy a dar un ejemplo de El Salvador, El Faro, quizás ustedes conocen, es un sitio web en El Salvador, un país en que empresas grandes de negocios han dominado los medios tradicionales, y El Faro ha surgido en un esfuerzo para dar una voz independiente, y ha sido mucho exitoso en El Salvador. Y entonces nosotros trabajamos con los medios tradicionales porque alcanzan una audiencia grande, pero también es muy importante que trabajemos también con los medios pequeños y innovadores.
Usually, back even maybe it was a result of the Cold War, a lot of how we defined independent journalism was that it was non-state journalism. The state TV station, the state radio, and there may have been only one commercial radio station which was not controlled by the state, maybe not controlled by the president or someone close to him. And in some places that's also true. Even today, if you look at a place like Georgia, where the country is ruled by two opposing groups of oligarchs, the control of the media is very limited. And so independent media has a very important role to play there. But what we've seen also, though, even in developed countries, is that the control of the media is still held in a few hands, maybe not just the state, but if it's in the hands of someone like Rupert Murdoch or another really big chain of media companies, then that's also not exactly the same kind of independence, because you have the other business interests of that corporation to look out for, and you also have the interests, the political interests of the owners that they're always looking out for. And so independent journalism or independent media in developed countries is just as important. And I think this is something that we're starting to come around to now. We need a diversity of voices, a diversity of opinions, and mainly a diversity of information. Otherwise, we're going to be debating the same idiotic topics over and over again. But if a group of independent journalists can go out and do some investigations, if they can find some data that is absolutely relevant, they have not only their obligation to get that out, but we have an obligation to help them.